only one car behind the safety car we see coming past us now. So the 66 car having a safety car all of its own.
How exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely, the JMW Ferrari. Okay, so those tyres very cold. We expect to see the tyres at least 80 degrees C or above, so down at half the temperature that they are. And of course, as the temperature builds, so does the pressure, which also affects the ride height of the car. So he needs to be working hard now to get the pressures in. Lena talking about weaving there. I think actually it's quite well documented that the best way to heat the tyres is traction and braking events, so that you're heating the wheel, and the wheel actually radiating the heat out into the tyre. Weaving gets the surface of the tyre warm, but it doesn't really heat the core, and it's the core of the tyre that needs to be warm to make the tyre really work at its best. Surface temperature not all that important, it is the core that matters.
Well, interesting. The safety car will come in at the end of this lap. This is the AF Corsa. This is the lead car in the pits, the lead in GTE-Pro in the pits and in the garage as well. So that's quite interesting, with Stefan Mucker not very far behind, also in the class. But that's perhaps your brake discs or brake pads that you were expecting a change there.
Absolutely, and I'm surprised. Well, I think actually they probably were looking for a safety car somewhere around 3 o'clock in the morning to get that job done, and that clearly didn't come. So these guys now are using this safety car, the people that could wait that long, the ones that have been driving maybe slightly slower to this point, using this as the opportunity to get that service done. But certainly the Aston Martin racing team have had to get that done before now, and we saw that the 458's doing the same. So safety car in this lap, just pulled off.
But the slow zones will still exist.
Yes, absolutely. So the barrier repairs, fantastic job there. And again, I think we see some of what we saw last night of Eduardo Freitas and his team just using this as an opportunity to make sure that the circuit's as clean as it can be. They just don't want to see people picking up punctures unnecessarily. As we see the A safety car coming and parking in front of us, proving the point that we had the C car here in front of us before, so coming in at a different place, a different view for them.
And of course the other thing is you've got to repair the barrier, because it can act as a launch if it's set at the wrong angle, and that would be awful to have that situation. Another car come round, hit the barrier and discover that it's at the wrong angle and literally launch the car. Would be absolutely disastrous. So obviously safety paramount, even in motor racing, always in motor racing. Very, very important. When things are at the limit, when people are driving cars at the limit, the performance is at the limit, that's when they desperately need to have maximum safety. Riding on board here with number 1 Quattro as an Aston pulls out in front of that car. It's trying to overtake. The Audi is trying to overtake Varys. There's a rather damaged Porsche there, isn't there?
GTE guys having their own battle, and the number 1 Audi very sensibly, Mark Genet, just saying no. This, you know, what caused that incident last night was people not being careful in that situation. And Mark, experienced enough to know that he's just got to back off and let them do their thing. He's now going to go 3 wide, and that's dangerous. That's very, very dangerous. Actually, off on the runoff on the right-hand side, that's a very easy way to pick up a puncture or even get spat into that barrier on the right-hand side. That tarmac on either side of the straight, not smooth. Very rough, dirty, and we see, I think that's the Taizan car, the 70 Ferrari 458 going straight on at Indianapolis. That's a common one, but I think we're going to see probably another slow zone there to get that car out. The digger on its way to go and scoop it out the gravel trap. He's gone in too hot. The 92 car has been sensible enough to say, no, on you go straight on. But that was very nearly taking out the GTE car. So, yeah, next slow zone, 96.
Yeah, Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
so
where you said. The reaction from that Porsche driver when the Audi was alongside, just said it all, didn't it? All of a sudden it was, oh, I didn't see you there.
Absolutely, and they wouldn't have with that Taizan car coming in way too hot on cold tyres, as we heard Lena Gade saying, you know, the tyres down to half their operating temperature. So now starting to build the pressures and temperatures again as they push on, and very easy when the temperatures and pressures are low to cut a tyre as well. The tyres are susceptible to puncturing when they're down at lower pressure and temperature.
That was Pierre Ere in the number 70 Ferrari, which is off in the gravel trap. They'll get that car out again, but there is a slow zone there as well now. So we've got a couple of slow zones.
The 70 car, another we've seen in lots of trouble throughout the weekend, I think. It's fair to say, just a few driver errors, actually, mainly in that car.
Team Taizan, which is run by a Japanese man called Ricky Chiba, who's been involved in motorsport for many years, mainly running cars in the Japanese championship. But I can remember he had a 962 Porsche 962 or 956, or at least sponsored one many years ago. So he's been involved, and he's won championships in Japan, very much in GT racing as well. So good to see them back here at Le Mans again.
And Pierre Ere in that car has been here quite a few times. He came here, I think, last with the CRS squad run by Andrew Cicaldi from the UK. Now the McLaren GT squad as it is, who we won't be seeing here at the moment until they get themselves a GTE car, which is all part of the convergence talks. Yeah, he's experienced around here. He knows how to do it, and a shame to see him make a mistake there in the after that safety car. Seeing a repeat of it again there, just going in way too hot. And the very fact that that's a factory Porsche that he's trying to outbrake probably says it all. You're not going to be outbraking your factory Porsche in a GTE-Am Ferrari 458.
Yeah, probably not. Absolutely. Well done.
So they're just going to go in, and that car obviously now moved, and Pierre on his way back, I think he'll be coming into the pits, probably dumping a lot of gravel. The 53 Ram Racing car now in the pits. The 52 garage door down. We hadn't seen that they've actually chosen to retire the 52 car with its gearbox woes. They tried desperately hard to get that car fixed and back out, but looks like the gearbox issues are serious enough to not get them back out.
So 53 rejoins. Where is that in relation to the class? 53, quite some way down, in fact, with was Mark Patterson. So quite some way down the order. In fact, Am at the moment is led by Christian Poulsen, with Klaus Bachler in the Porsche in second place, couple of laps behind. And Klaus Bachler, a very good peddler. He's won in Porsche Super Cup last year, and so he's in second place in the Porsche. And then in third place is number 61, Chiocci, in the Ferrari. Paolo Roberti in fourth place, and then Nicholas Johnson in the Krone car. Ferrari in sixth, then Pat Long in the Porsche, way down in seventh, and then Pierre Ere in number 70, who we saw a moment ago, next up. 34 gets a substantial penalty, 35-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And let's just check out who that is. 34, not in contention in...
34 is Michel Frey.
Yeah, so in fourth place, in fact, in LMP2, very much in contention there. I was saying not in contention, but indeed it is. So 35 seconds, he doesn't want to lose, really.
Absolutely, that's going to be gutting for those guys. They really can't afford to be throwing time away like that. Very much still in the battle. They're 1 minute 20 back from Mark Shalisky in the Nissan G-Drive Racing Ligier Coupe. 1 minute 20 back now, and then a further lap back, Bad A, and I fear that going 2 laps down will be Michel Frey in that Oreca, but yeah, they really didn't need to lose that time.
Now, with all that safety car and slow zone, etc., etc., the gap between Marc Genet and Mark Webber has come down a little bit. It's now 105 seconds, 1 minute 45 seconds between the two. It's come down a bit. It went up and now it's come back down.
But what was gutting there, and we did see, because of the nature of the way it worked, we still have a slow zone out there, so Mark might get that time back yet. But Mark has been through that slow zone one more time than Marc Genet, and this will ebb and flow now until such time as it goes away. And we, for the sake of the race being a fair one, we want to see Marc Genet go through that slow zone one more time than Mark Webber, which will take away the advantage that he's gained so far from that. So race control, please keep an eye on that one, because we want to see a nice fair fight for this. And Mr. Webber wants his 50 seconds back, please.
So the Mark versus Mark show at the moment. At the lead of the Le Mans 24 Hours, Marc Genet ahead of Mark Webber. And then Marcel Fassler, who's a couple of laps further back in third place in the second Audi. It's Audi, Porsche, Audi, and then the Toyota of Nicolas Lapierre, which is about 6 laps behind Marcel Fassler. And then Romain Dumas, who's just about a lap behind Nicolas Lapierre. Dumas in the second of the Porsches. So 2 Audis still, 2 Porsches still, just 1 Toyota.
Just a comment there, as you say, about the Toyota. A comment from Kazuki Nakajima in a press statement. It's heartbreaking. I don't know what to say. I really feel for the team and all of the people supporting us. So as we see the slow zone procedure continue while they repair the barrier, we're just seeing here somebody's noticed that the number 1 Audi race leading car is not showing its positional lighting on the left-hand side, and while we were just waking up and coming back, we did see that the race organisers and officials had decided to bring the Corvette in for the very same thing and make it change its door to repair that. So I suspect we're going to see an Audi in to change a side pod to put that right, assuming it's not just a connector somewhere inside the side of the car, but they'll be given the opportunity to do that at the next pit stop, and if they can't make that work at the next stop, then they'll be made to bring that car back in and do that properly.
If it's been noticed, of course.
Absolutely, but I suspect with this much of the race left to go, it will be noticed at some stage in the not too distant future. So the number 20 car still chasing it down, that gap growing again in that last lap by another 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Mr. Webber is going to be pushing on hard now, I think, to try and close that gap. Assuming they want to push hard to race them, and they're not just going to run their own program. But I don't believe the guys at Porsche are going to just continue doing their thing now with just 7 hours and 13 minutes to go.
In LMP2, the gap is just over a minute. It's about 75 seconds between Schultz Hitzke in the 35 Ligier and Nelson Panciatici in the 36 Alpine. Then comes Ludovic Badi in the second of the Ligiers, number 46. And then next up is Michel Frey, who has just been into the pits, I think, in 4th place. And he's got Oliver Turvey next up in the Zytek number 38. Then we got Jean Charroux, Gary Hirsch, Ho Pin Tung, and Chris Dyson. So a lot of LMP2 cars and quite competitive ones. Meanwhile, in GT-Pro, the margin there is 33 seconds between Stefan Mucker, who is now in the lead, ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella. So Aston and Ferrari disputing GT-Pro. And GTE-Am is Aston and Porsche, and the margin there is, it's probably 2 or 3 laps. So Christian Poulsen, not comfortable, but looking better. Now, the repair is done, we're pleased to say. So that repair is done. Whether there's other repairs further round,
I think that was it, because I think where he hit the wall on the outside.
Well, there's 2 slow zones at the moment, 106 and 100, or is that 250?
The depth of the slow zone in effect. So slightly longer than a normal slow zone. Normally we see those being a 30-second period of time additional to the lap. just seeing that Mikael Frey has served his penalty now in the LMP2 Orica, the 34 car run by the, I think that's the Race Performance squad.
And that was for speeding in the pit lane.
As we see a replay of the 35 car, driven now by Mark Shalisky, taking over from Alex Brundle. So next in the driver rotation will be the young hard charger Alex Brundle, but those guys just doing a sterling job. Yeah, sorry, Jan Mardenborough next, then back into Alex. Jan seemed to have driven most of the night though, so I'm wondering if they've chosen to they'll choose to do some long stints here for the other two to give Jan a chance to rest, because he definitely is that Audi goes grass tracking, if they'll choose to do it that way. The 97 class leading, Stefan Mucker coming out, and I don't know who's got in that car. I'm not sure what the driver rotation is, but that in for its next stop.
Well, we only just saw the brief part of the pit stop. We don't even know that there has been a driver change there. There it goes. It leaves its pit. Still in the lead of the class, was by 38 seconds. Will it still be in the lead? And indeed, Stefan Mucker would appear still to be in that car. 1 minute until the end of the slow zone procedure. So there we go, full racing again. And Fisichella has gone through ahead of Stefan Mucker. So a change there, but still very, very close between the AF Corsa Ferrari of Giancarlo Fisichella, number 51, and Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin number 97.
And what I was talking about there of the slow zone and Mark Webber getting caught again through that slow zone. Unfortunately, the slow zone will be coming away in about 20 seconds time, and Mark Webber has had to go through that one more time than Marc Genet, as we see Marc Genet put the gap up to 2 minutes 42.
Yeah, that's got to be infuriating, because it's gone up about a minute ago, gone back to a minute, over a minute. Sorry, gone back to 2 minutes 42.
Yeah, so Mark really losing out there due to the slow zone, which is something that Paul Truswell and I discussed at length, and I think we both came to the same conclusion that they weren't fair, but they were right, because we want to see these cars racing, and the safety cars are no fairer, but you stand more chance of losing more time, I think, with these slow zones, as we've just seen. Mark actually losing about 2 minutes in total through that period, which takes an awful long time to win 2 minutes back on the road, as we see the one Audi now coming down pit road. So he's going to close that gap again, but this is artificial now, because this is now into pit stop times that both have to do.
So the lead Audi into the pits with Marc Genet aboard, and the third-placed LMP2 car with Ludovic Badier aboard, also into the pits, number 46. Green flag, so we have a green flag all the way around the circuit. So we can gauge the various different situations. The drinks bottles replaced. One has water in it, the other has energy drink in it. Mini bar, there we go. Number one, no full service for that this time by the looks of things. It looks like it's just going to be fuel. Marc Genet stays in the car and still being held.
Fires up, and we hear it, the turbo spool up right from the rear, right by the exhaust. And he heads away, so that gap will now be down to something like 1 minute 40, but just can't afford to be losing that time that Mark Webber lost there, almost cruelly, unfairly, due to the slow zone. But this is part of the procedure. There's nothing that the race organisers can do about it. It's how the cookie crumbles. It's a roll of the dice every single time. So the 98 car. Let's see where that car's running. The Aston's running very strong, I think Giancarlo Fisichella in the 51 Ferrari 458 class leading GTE car probably owes us a brake change. And assuming he does owe us a brake change, and he has to do that brake change under green, I think that Stefan Mucker would have nearly a lap on the Ferrari.
Well, we saw the Fisichella car in the garage a few laps ago, so I think maybe they've done their brakes.
Okay, so this is now a race on track as it is.
Yeah, should be.
As the 97 car comes past us, and the gap will now update. We'll see the screens. Yeah,
11 seconds between Fisichella and Mucca.
So it is a real race now.
Very much so. And then Marco Holzer in third place in the Porsche, number 92. But he's a lap down, if not 2 laps down, in fact, on those 2 leading Pro cars. GTE-Pro and GTE-Am. GTE-Pro, you can have 3 top-rated drivers, whereas in GTE-Am you have to have a bronze, a silver and a gold or platinum. So you have a trio of drivers of differing abilities, whereas in GTE-Pro most of them are factory cars.
I think Marcel Fassler just driving as fast as he possibly can. He's not too interested in the whether he was unlapping himself or whether that was a position. He's out there to win a race, and having lost all that time in the pits, he's just got to press on very hard now and try and gain it back.
So Genet to Webber. Well, it's actually, of course, with that pit stop for Marc Genet, it's come back a bit to 105 seconds now, 1 minute and 45 seconds between Marc Genet and Mark Webber after 281 laps. Still nearly 7 hours, just over 7 hours of the race to go. Still a long way. And yes, a couple of laps down for Marcel Fassler. He's lapping quicker in that first sector than his 2 rivals. Well, at least Mark Webber. He's lapping quicker than Mark Webber in the first sector. Marcel Fassler in third place in the number 2 Audi. In fourth place, another 6 laps behind him, is the Toyota, currently driven by Nicolas Lapierre in the number 8 Toyota. And then Romain Dumas in the number 14 Porsche is in 15th place. In 5th place in LMP1. Those are the remaining LMP1s. We've lost a Toyota with the electrical problem. We've lost an Audi earlier on as well. We're left with 2 Audis, 2 Porsches and 1 Toyota in the order of Audi, Porsche, Audi, Toyota and Porsche.
Yeah, of course, that Marco Bononomi not being able to do anything about the accident that removed that at the time lead Audi. Absolutely gutting for him, and you could see that in his expression in the cockpit, banging the steering wheel, banging his head, and just not very happy to have been removed from this race by a couple of errant cars, one of them being a Toyota.
Yes, the Toyota, of course, of Lapierre was delayed in the same incident and eventually got back to the pits and was repaired and has been going ever since, but not the same fortune for the Audi number 3.
No, we heard that the gearbox casing had been punctured on that car by the drive shaft in the impact, which is why he didn't drive that car back, wasn't allowed to bring it back. Of course, if he had got it back, they could have rebuilt the gearbox, but he'd have done so much damage doing that, bringing it back from Tertre Rouge, where the accident had happened, all the way around the lap. If it had even got back, he would have been a pile of scrap, I think, by the time it had made it back, no matter what, and would have dropped an awful lot of oil at the same time, as we see the 51 car just coming past us now, and then the 97. Now that gap coming down, I feel.
Let's have a look. It was 11 seconds. And it is now 7.8, so you're right there.
It's visibly coming down as we see the cars, as one exits the forward chicane, one entering the forward chicane. So Darren Turner, Stefan Mucca, sorry, is turning up the wick to close that gap. And this one's just going to be a race to the end by the looks of it, as we see the Porsche, the 20 car, the car that's currently running second, up in the into the pits. This is Mark Webber staying in for his 3rd stint now. as we see Marcel Fassler set a purple sector, so fastest overall for the race in the hunt for that 20 car. He's got the message from Lena that you need to push on, get this, close this 2-lap gap, and there's a lot of work to do, but that's the way to do it. Fastest sector of all for the race for that number 2 Audi. Let's see what he does in the second as the Porsche drives away.
Yes, just fuel there for Porsche number 20 with Mark Webber still aboard.
Mark closed the gap slightly there on the last few laps to Marc Genet in the lead number 1 Audi, as we see.
Yeah. Aston overtaking Porsche and putting LMP2 car offline.
Yeah, Morgan trying to enter wall sideways. I don't think we need that. So the 91 Patrick Pilet driven delayed GTE-Pro Porsche 991 GTE. That he's handing over there, but that car really taken out of contention around midnight with a couple of issues. They had a brake problem that they needed to deal with, and also issue within the fuel system to go in and fix, so they took the opportunity to do that. And I think they've been delayed again since that, but we haven't got any detail of what that delay was. But certainly that car now playing a support role with who do we think Nick Tandy going in that car, Bob?
Didn't quite see whether it was Tandy or Jörg Bergmeister, but Jörg Bergmeister being the slightly longer wheelbase driver. So we will see when it comes.
So Fassler's second sector pretty quick as well. So Fassler really giving it the message now. He knows that he's got to chase this now. There's no sitting back and watching. It's chase it and go. So Bergmeister into the 91. That car really is out of contention and playing a support role for the 92 now. The 92 well in for a chance, but 2 laps down on the class lead.
Yeah, you feel be interesting to have a look at the lap times now. 3 minutes 27 for Marcel Fassler. Last time around, it could be even quicker this time. A really quick lap time is a 3:23 race time, and that's what we saw earlier on from Nakajima. That was lap 4 when there wasn't any traffic. 3 minutes 23, but even 3 minutes 27
just
with
coming
traffic.
Past us now, so we're going to get that split time.
Let's see what it is.
And the timing screen's taking a little while to update.
3 minutes 27 last time around.
No sector 3 time coming through for Marcel Fassler, but we've seen him come past us, so we know he's done it. Yeah, timing screen's just having a bit of a wobble. See if the online stuff is...
Into the pits comes Porsche number 14 in 5th place, Romain Dumas, bringing that into the pits for a scheduled stop, I would suggest. Interesting that we haven't had that updated.
And still no, yeah, 3:27.0 is what I'm showing, yeah, which is the same on the online stuff as we have on our official timing screens in front of us. But we absolutely definitely saw the 2 car come past us. I don't think we're imagining things.
Clock's still running. So that's still working.
So 7 hours of this race remain, and all still to play for. Pantiatici in the Alpine in the second place car in LMP2. 34.1 in the first sector, fastest for that car overall, or fastest that car had done so far in this race. So again, the place coming alive. Antonio Garcia in that Corvette trying to make up the time lost in the early hours of this morning, trying to top up the transmission fluid. 37.2 setting a green sector as well. So several people out there on a real charge. Still no time for Marcel Fassler as far as the screens go, but we know that he's completed that lap, so he's not missing, but yeah, no time there. Perhaps a transponder issue there for the number 2 car, which race control will sort out. They do have a light beam system as well as a backup, so they can see at what point that car came through. And some poor person up there, if that is a transponder issue, will now have to sit there every time that car comes past and press a button and say, yep, it was that one. And the 33 we see going on its way. I think that's the HPD powered Ligier. run by the Oak Racing squad. The other person who's really on a charge, Jerome Bleekemolen, in the Pro Speed competition, 79 Porsche, setting a fastest personal sector time in Sector 1. That on his 220th lap so far. As we see the 76 car coming in. 76 is the Imsamat Porsche. That car being driven by David Halliday.
The son of Johnny Hallyday, who is generally accepted to be France's answer to Elvis Presley. But he's a bit high mileage now, as is, of course, Elvis Presley. Interestingly, we still haven't had that lap time from Marcel Fessler. You know, we've been waiting for that.
He's coming past again now, so let's see, because there's something fundamentally wrong. Yeah, no, the timing screen not picking up. No, there we go. I mean, we get a very long Sector 3 time.
Yeah. Did it go missing? Did he imagine it?
Did we imagine seeing that car? Because I'm certain we didn't imagine seeing that car. And at 302 seconds, Sector 3.
Well, it's lap time, 6 minutes 53.
It's double, isn't it?
It's pretty much double, yeah.
So let's hope the timekeepers pick that one up and make the correction there for him. But that's gutting that we didn't see what went on. I'm sure the guys at Audi will be walking down to have a quiet word in the ear at race control and say, "Oi, can we have our lap back, please?" So we'll see that car jump to lap 262. It's the first time I've ever seen that here, a timing glitch like that. I've never seen somebody manage to not be scored on a lap. Maybe he went offline, and maybe he was passing somebody off-piste.
And they didn't pick up the transponder time as it went past.
So the 88 Proton competition car being in for a fuel-only stop.
Now, Marcel Fessler, there we are. I think they've given it back now, 3 minutes 25, but it just goes to show how quick he is going. Just a couple of seconds off the fastest lap we've seen in this race.
Well, that would have made that other lap a 3:23.
Yeah, or 25,
so
no, it's 26.
The previous, yeah, sorry, 26.
So, Genet to Webber. 2 minutes and 51 seconds between those two at the moment after that last pit stop for Mark Webber. And then Marcel Fessler in third place, having got the message from Lena Gade, and he certainly has got the message.
Oh dear, the door's broken off.
The door's fallen off.
Those poor guys. This car has been through the wars. I know this is the sister car of the car that's really been through the wars. Can't tell you the number because it's on the door, which is no longer attached to the car.
There we go.
75. So that's Manu Collard's car, I think, isn't it?
Pro Speed competition, yes, you're absolutely right, with Marcus Paltela and Perodo in there as well. Emmanuel Collard, a very, very talented driver, and latterly a very talented Porsche driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Manu, famous for the massive accident that he had in the LMP1 cars in at Monza, where he, the first chicane, managed to clear the wall in, I think that was a Pescarolo at the time, but a very talented LMP driver, always been here at Le Mans. He's part of the scenery, and he gets on his way with his door falling off. Whoops.
It wasn't my fault, Carver. I only just touched it, really.
Yeah. The pin just dropping out the top mount, and then the bottom mount saying, "No, I can't hold this on my own."
And actually, that could be quite serious because they might have to put in new mountings.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, it'll be the door that broke, not the chassis mounting, and therefore it'll be quite easy to fix. But it definitely wasn't going to hold on with the bottom mount alone.
Oliver Turvey on a charge out there, just set his best third sector time, which is the longest of the sectors. He's currently in 5th place in the Zytek run by Jota, number 38.
He has Frey in his sights, doesn't he? That's for 4th place, that battle in the LMP2 category, closing in.
Just under 3 minutes between the two of them. Michel Frey is
7 seconds out in that last lap.
Probably useful. And Marcel Fessler, 3 minutes 24.991 last time, so that's a very, very competitive time. He has certainly got the message and is charging him. I mean, he's 9 seconds quicker than Mark Webber ahead of him. He's 5 seconds quicker than his own teammate, Marc Genet, out in the lead. Marcel Fessler really going for it.
Yeah, those guys got nothing to lose now. They just need to pull those 2 laps back, and it's going to take a long time to get that time back. As we see Mark Webber, I'm intrigued to see what that gap's got to now between the #1 race leading Audi of Marc Genet and the 20 Porsche LMP1 919 hybrid of Mark Webber. We see the 2 Porsches running fairly close together on the circuit now. As the 20 leads the 14 through the Ford chicane, those beautiful white and silver, white and grey Porsches. And Mark Webber not really responding to the chase. Doesn't really need to at the moment, but equally Marc Genet pulling a larger gap now, up to 2:56. So 2:56 is, you know, not far off a full lap lead now, as we do see just now the #1 car come through, caught in traffic in the Ford chicane. A good place to catch it, not such a large amount of time lost. Marc Genet gets on and gets past, and setting a much faster time than Mark Webber that last time around. Again, you know, 6 seconds thrown away there by Mark Webber. Whether that's because of traffic or whether he can't give it those same times that we're seeing from Marc Genet, I don't know.
Just doesn't seem to have the pace, does he? And if we look at Romain Dumas, he's in the 30s as well. He's only a couple of seconds or less than that, 1.3 seconds quicker than Mark Webber. The Porsches seem not seeming to have the pace, lapping about in the 2-minute 33s, whereas, as I say, for example, Fessler is 9 seconds quicker. That's a lot.
That is an awful lot, but a long way down Fessler, whereas the Genet battle is somewhat closer. But Mark going to be very frustrated to have lost that time under safety car in the slow zone. We see the lead change there, I think, in the GTE class, the replay. I think we're about to see the timing screen show. Stefan Mucker has caught and passed Giancarlo Fisichella. Yellow at Marshall's post 60, which is the second chicane on the Mulsanne, which is where these guys that we're seeing on the screen now are just coming down to and out of. Not sure what the yellow was for.
They had the yellow flag. We saw that waving in the background. I think it's gone in again now here. And as you say, that was at the second chicane, MP60, Marshall post 60. There it is.
The car that's just lost its door has now lost its wheel.
So that's number 75.
I think that's Perodo in the car now. And yeah, that is on its... Is it on its outlap, Bob, or is that... Just wait for the... Yeah, there was no nut there, was there?
No, it certainly didn't come off.
I think there were... Yeah, I think...
Perodo.
That whilst being busy worrying about the door, they didn't quite get that nut on. The stub axle's still there, and in one piece. He's not going to get that Porsche back, unfortunately. That rear engine car, if he drags that car back, the back of the car is going to be absolutely destroyed. So I fear that's retirement for the 75 Porsche.
Looks like the 14th retirement in this race. It was actually in 40th place, last place. So it just drops off the back. The 75 Porsche, well, that just about compounds their... it says contact and stopped, but we didn't see any contact. It just fell off, didn't it?
It did. I suspect we're going to see him, when he gets out of that car, the door fall off as well. So the poor old Marshall's going to have to scoop that back up along with the wheel.
It'll come back in kit form.
Yes, Airfix style. So Webber that last time around, losing another 3 seconds to Marc Genet. So Marc, within probably one more stint at the rate we're going to have a whole lap on Mark Webber. As we see the 51 Ferrari 458, the GTE battle coming through, the one car in amongst that now. But the Aston driving away, that's the Aston you can see on the screen just in front. Oh, sorry, and as we switch to the GTE-Am leading. No, that's the other car. The 98 car with Pedro Lamy going into that car now with the pink on the helmet. Oof. Yeah, there was certainly no contact there, just a lack of a wheel nut because the stub axle is looking fairly complete. The number 1 Audi continues through Tertre Rouge and on its way down the Mulsanne straight, and it's going to be romping away at the moment. 3:28.5 last time around.
.28.29s are good there, but Fassler was in the 25s last time. This time it's 3:27 for Marcel Fassler. Webber 3:31. Nicolas Lapierre in the Toyota and Romain Dumas in the Porsche, both in the 3:30s. And such is the pace of this car that you actually have to monitor virtually every single lap. Pace of this race, I should say.
Audi doing the housekeeping in the garage now, as well as the housekeeping on the car when it came in.
Well, to be honest, twas ever thus. A vacuum cleaner was always extremely important in the pits here, if only to get the gravel out of the car.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good old Henry in the back of the garage, always to suck all the everything out of the car. So 14 chases. I think that's the 8.
I think it's 20, actually. I think it's a teammate. And gets past it. 14 and 20 travelling together, and now 14 going ahead of 20.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Mark Webber getting the hurry up there, which we suspected was coming because he'd been dropping a good lump of time to the Audi every lap, at least 3 seconds a lap.
But is this just proof that he doesn't have the car?
The pace.
Exactly.
I wonder if they're on the soft tyre and Mark's really struggling there, because he's coming towards the end of his run now in this car, and he got in the cooler temperatures. So if that car has started on the soft, he might be starting to really feel that tyre go away. So I suspect we'll see him out at the next pit stop and handing that car over to young Brendan Hartley, who will be getting a set of soft or medium Michelin to go and do the next 3. And yeah, the 14 car just driving away from Mark Webber there. Mark 3:33.6, slower than his previous lap, so really struggling with pace. I'd like to have heard his response on the radio.
Yeah, 3:33s, even Dumas a couple of seconds quicker.
I suspect his response will have been give me a car to do it.
Yeah.
Because Mark, more than capable, as we know.
We've got yellows out again, but that's because the Manitou is on track, removing that Porsche.
Yeah, that being covered by waved yellows, not one of these slow zone procedures as it's on the exit there. I think that's a fairly brave move.
Somewhat nervous Marshall, actually, quite justifiably so, really.
That last year where we saw the incident for, I think it was the Aston Martin, being driven by Fred Macko on the way out of there, which was leading the class at the time, about this time in the morning, actually, when he hit the wall there on the right-hand side. So, yeah, some brave marshals. The number 1 car comes through the first chicane.
as its teammate number 2, Marcel Fessler, into the pits after that sparkling run of laps.
Marcel Fessler will be staying in that car. There will be no tyres. It will be a fuel-only stop.
And he peels off into his pit. Door opens, but it's just a change of the minibar.
The Nismo cam here coming down the pit lane, having a good look at the Audi guys at work.
Was suspected or suggested that those 2 bottles, the red and blue bottle, were one was screen wash and the other was a drinks bottle, but I think they're both drinks bottles. Someone did point out they're not to be confused.
These cars don't run a screen wash system.
No.
The screen wash would be of little use to them with the curvature on the windscreen. As soon as the speeds they're running, as soon as it hit, it would be gone. So no, none of these cars, even the GTE cars, not running a screen wash system. I often think a headlight wash system would be something of use on these cars, but something just too much weight to carry.
Yeah, yeah.
You see the WRC cars still running these days with a bladder inside the car that carries water to clean the windscreen, but they need that for water splashes and mud splashes and the like. So the 92 Pro Porsche coming in, that the factory car, and that's still sitting 3rd in class. Marco Holzer, he's not gaining, but he's not losing. He needs to gain that lap back, get on the lead lap, and then hope for some lucky safety cars.
Yeah, he's just a lap behind, isn't he, at the moment? There it is. Fuel going in. And a breather on the other side.
Interesting that Porsche make their vent man wear a high-vis vest. Nobody else doing that. They're helping the safety and efficiency of the Porsche crew. And away he goes. Oh, yeah, no, it does.
Thought it stalled, yeah. A lot of morning after the night before faces there, either in the pits or out in the grandstands. And the Manitou just recovering that Porsche, but you can see the race cars in the background. I don't know where he's taking it.
That's it. I'm just wondering where he's going to put it.
Yeah.
Clearly the digger came from somewhere, so wherever it came from, I suspect is where that Porsche will be put.
Fessler has rejoined.
That's the number 8 car getting refueled, the last remaining Toyota. Those guys pushing on hard, but unfortunately I just think that gap too big to close. 8-lap gap at the moment, and you know the guys at Toyota are going to be gutted about that. They were running such a strong race, and this car losing, it was only 5 laps down I think as we left last night, so I think it has lost a little more time. But actually we saw them last night trying to fix the, just as we finished our last stint, trying to fix the one of the turning vanes underneath because they had an aero balance issue, and they needed to get in and fix that, so unlucky for some.
Nicolas Lapierre rejoining, still in 4th place, and as you say, there's nothing they can really do. They're a long way down. They're 5 laps down on the car ahead. They can charge, but will it do them any good? Will it get them anywhere? That's the problem.
They would have to hope for similar problems to those that befell the number 2 car to happen to all of those cars ahead.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that. I think these guys now are just pressing on, and you know, Audi know how to do this. Audi always strong come the morning.
It's been pretty impressive, actually, especially Fessler doing those lap times at this stage of the race. He was really charging.
As you say, that Janae goes quite a lot quicker, 3:26.5.
That's not bad. Yeah, very good.
That's a lap that you'd expect, you know, not from the man leading the race. He'd been told, you know, 3:28 was fine. So if he's comfortable doing those times, I suspect Kyle will let him get on with it. And the number 1 car actually on one more pit stop than the number 2. And 2 more stops than the Audi. So that we expected to see. The diesel car not able to go quite as far as the petrol, but the petrol with a slightly larger fuel tank.
Quite bumpy for Marc Genet in that car.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not getting a smooth ride of it. It definitely looks... I don't think there's a vibration there. It seems to be bumps rather than... as he wallops a curb.
Surface bumps rather than anything else. Here he is avoiding action around the outside of a couple of slower cars.
So super sub, Marc Genet expecting to be in the Jota Zytek this week, and ending up in the factory number 1 Audi with an opportunity to win the race outright. And yeah, I think on Monday morning, if he'd been offered this, without any offence meant to the Jota squad, I think Mark would have bitten anybody at Audi's hand off. Loic Duval is okay, who he's in to replace, but unable to race this weekend. The doctor's saying, no, you need a little bit more time to just recover from that bang that you had. So, yeah, Mark doing a sterling job, seething through the traffic now.
And, of course, he's sharing with a certain T. Christensen, who has won this race 9 times before. Will this be the magic 10? And the other driver in that car, of course, is Lucas Di Grassi.
You see the 88 8-star car. This is the 98 star car. Just getting front brake pads only. So interesting that on the 458 they actually only have to do the pads. They're not having to do discs as well. And I think the Aston Martin, traditionally heavy on its brakes, the front engine car, putting a lot more load through that front axle during braking events, and often see surface cracking on the discs of those Astons, and yeah, very difficult to get through. I know from experience that you can just about do 24 hours on a set of discs in an Aston, so I'm surprised they did change them. I've done it myself, but it was touch and go, and I had a few drivers looking at the discs at the end saying, did you really finish the race on those for me?
So just to be precise, it's the number 98 star car as opposed to the 98 star car.
Yes, absolutely. 62. These all-Am car having a little moment there on the way into the first chicane, but recovering. And we're seeing lots of green sector times again. Just on certainly on the first page of timing, we've got loads of them popping up. So people pressing on. So Ho Pin Tung there in the 33 Honda-powered Ligier in the LMP2 class, setting a personal fastest for that car, a 3:40.2. Ollie Turvey now in on his in-lap, setting a green first sector. And Nelson Pantiatici, whilst trying to chase down Mark Shalisky in the Ligier, also setting green first sector. So everybody in that LMP2 class, they just seem to go for it, as we see the Zytek Nissan there getting an oil top-up. The Jota Sport car, that was the pressurised cylinder that you saw plugged in on the back, just to the right-hand side of the engine cowling fin. 34, nice slow-mo, lots of nice replays now.
Michel Frey really dropping out of the fray a little bit, isn't he, at the moment? He's back in 6th place in class. Was higher up than that. Look at the amount of
gravel that these guys are sweeping. The Toyota on the lock stops there. Absolute full opposite lock.
No number there.
On the way out, no. I'm surprised they've not been pulled up for that as well. But yeah, Frey never really seems to have recovered since the speeding penalty. We've not really seen him press on, as we see a GPS sensor having a bit of a wobble on the roof of that G-Drive 35 Ligier. And those laser lights on the front of the Audi, aren't they fantastic? The way they flash on and off, and the light that those guys in the Audi had at night, and they think of everything, those guys.
This time around, Fessler down in the 3-minute 25s, Genet 3-minute 27s, and Webber 3 minutes 30s. Genet there.
So Kyle Wilson-Clark giving the message there that what they wanted to do was a quadruple stint on these tyres, which I'm quite surprised about at this stage in the day with the lead they have. They don't really need to be doing that. They can get away with just a triple. They're a long way up the road, but these front tyres, he's saying, not coming back to him, so they would have hoped that it was tyre pickup causing that. But Mark saying, no, this isn't the case. The tyres are not coming back to me, and you know, I think he's going to be begging for a new set of boots, if not a driver change at the next stop, because he is now running through his second stint.
Well, he's second fastest, as I say, to teammate Marcel Fessler, second fastest of the top 5. And I'm afraid slowest of the top 5 is Mark Webber in the 3-minute 30-second brackets. We've got Lapierre and Dumas in the 3-minute 29s. So once again, confirmation that Mark just doesn't have the pace in the car, in the tyres, or wherever.
I suspect we're going to see Mark getting out of the car at the next stop.
Nice little bit of patchwork there.
Absolutely. I don't know who the offender was that took it out.
And here is Webber in the Porsche, weaving his way through traffic.
Passing the Jota Zytek there on the left-hand side. As he comes into the Porsche curves, through that fast left-hander, that's quite a challenging corner, the double left, and then into the slower right-hand section, which leads through into karting. The left-hander, the international kart circuit there on the right-hand side of the circuit. I think Mark giving a fairly blunt message back there that he's doing what he can in that number 20 car. 332. So the pace just isn't there, and Mark clearly frustrated that he can't respond.
They seem to be happy with that pace, but it's 5 seconds slower than those around him.
Yeah, I mean, they do have to do less pit stops, and we might see that that's being factored into their strategy. The end game here, I don't know. They'd be mad to have given up on pushing for a victory. Ooh, as we see the Soprev car, I think that is, isn't it? It is. I wonder who's at the wheel of that, because we have our famous footballer in that car, Fabian Barthez, but I don't think he's in it. Yes, he is. That's Fabian Barthez making that mistake, going straight on at the first chicane.
So is that a save or or is that a goal?
Oh, own goal, I think, is what that is, isn't it? Yeah, Fabian Barthez, I think this is his first time here, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
And fulfilling a lifelong dream now that he's no longer playing professional football. Hoping Tung in that Ligier, the 33 HPD powered Ligier. Really pressing on. That's 3 laps in a row now, setting fastest sector 2 times for that car. The last lap, not that impressive, a 3:44.1, and to be at the top of that class, you've really got to be in the low 40s. But suddenly that car coming alive with its new turbocharger fitted that it had a couple of hours ago. Tung, no longer, I wouldn't say, up-and-coming driver. Been around the European racing scene now for probably 4 or 5 years. Very capable driver, but never really run at the front in any of the series that he's done, I think it's fair to say.
just to go back to Fabien Barthez, 42 years old at the moment. He did the GT France Championship in 2012, and he won it last year in 2013, so that's pretty impressive. Took part in the World Cup in '98, Champions League in '93, champion of France in '97 and 2000, champion in Britain in 2001 and 2003 with Man U, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
His first Le Mans.
But interesting, we see all these top-level sportsmen now making the switch over to motor racing in the British GT Championship this year. Nissan have Chris Hoy, Sir Chris Hoy, making the switch from cycling across and choosing to do with that with the Nissan team because of the GT Academy and the way that we see these young drivers like young Mark Schlisky and Jan Mardenborough being brought through a very specific program of training, which Chris is also following. And I suspect we'll see Chris here in the next couple of years. That very much the plan. I don't think it'll be in an LMP1 car. Well, I think we will see Chris here, certainly in an LMP2 car, and who knows what's going to happen with these GT regulations. Nissan's Andy Palmer saying he wanted to see cars here from Nissan in each and every class. Now, they can't do that as a manufacturer in the LMP2 class. They do that with the engine supply in the LMP2 class, which is why we see those guys in that car. But he very much wants to see a car here, a Nissan here in GTE, be it a customer car or a factory effort. And I suspect Sir Chris will be somewhere involved with that as and when that happens.
It'll be difficult because he's a big bloke.
Absolutely, they're saying he's even struggling to sit in the bucket seat of the Nissan GT3 that he's currently racing, and he's actually having to change his training program and his diet to try and lose the weight that he's got on his legs. So he's got such muscular legs, and particularly the upper leg, he just can't get comfortable in the car to be able to drive the thing properly. So I suspect Recaro will be making him a special seat or two, but it's very difficult for somebody like Sir Chris to change his whole body tone after so many years of training to do a very specific thing and having all that power in his upper leg.
Well, the fastest two drivers on the circuit, both in the 3-minute 25s, are Marc Genet and Marcel Fessler, both in the Audis. Extraordinary how the pace is coming at the right time with those Audis, having the light slightly been under a bushel earlier on in the race and during qualifying as well.
Dare I say, Audi always set these cars up for the last 3 hours normally of the race. They don't normally worry too much about this phase of the race. It's normally about the chase at the end. Yeah, the car's very much
box this time for Marc Genet, the leader.
So we think this will be fuel only, but we did hear the discussion earlier on between Kyle and Mark about the fact this car had quite a lot of understeer, so we might see him doing a double on tyres rather than trying to go 2 more stints. Let's see whether the tyres are ready, but Marc Genet setting a fastest for that car, first sector time in sector 1 on his in-lap with a nice light car. Going to get held up now through Indianapolis, so he's not going to do the same through sector 3, but his sector 2 time pretty handy as well, so Mark definitely on a charge now. And yeah, let's see if he's going to get tyres at this next stop. He certainly won't be a driver change.
Look at all that traffic, busy time. And the Audi guys getting ready. Meanwhile, in LMP2, I've been waiting to see this margin. Mark Schulz-Hidsky out in the lead from Nelson Panciatici. How about that, those two, for exercising your varrols at this time of day. But 2 minutes 40 seconds between the two of them. Schulz-Hidsky in the lead in the Ligier number 35, ahead of the Alpine number 36.
I think something key we've just seen on there is earlier this lap, we've seen the Audi put the Porsche a lap down. So, not going to stay that way for long because the Audi coming in, but ultimately it's going to shake out that Mark Webber in the lead Porsche, in the 20 car, sitting second overall, now a lap behind. And that can be key to this race, because as safety cars fall or slow zones, or it's very difficult to unlap yourself if we don't have a clear run to the end. I really want to see Brendan Hartley get strapped into that 20 car and get going, because I think actually what we'll see next is Timo Bernard in that car. But that's certainly how the rotation was last night. But Brendan in that car now would be interesting to see if he can match the pace of the Audi.
This is a fuel only for Marc Genet. By the look, oh, hang about.
They've got tyres ready.
Yeah.
But they're going to send it. So they've had a look through the top, the apertures in the top, and said, no, there's plenty of meat left on them. Go out there and deal with that understeer.
So Genet rejoins, still in the lead. Long stint from the Spanish driver. Super sub. Marcel Fessler here, third in class, sharing with Andre Lotterer and Benoit Trellier.
27 car, 27. So that's Zlobin in the 27 Orica in the LMP2 class. Just 20-second stop go for speeding in the pit lane. And we hear Lee Nagade encouraging Marcel Fessler to continue pushing to try and close that 2-lap gap to Mark Webber. Mark owes us a stop in the next 2 laps, I think. So let's see what comes of that. I think Mark will be... I don't know. I think Mark might choose to get out of that car if the handling is as it is, and take this opportunity to put some fresh rubber on, because he's just losing too much time now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, bold facts there from Lee Nagade to Marcel Fessler. Nothing more to it, and that's going to encourage him. Look at the vibration now from this Porsche. That's exactly what we saw before, wasn't it? Massive vibration.
Last night when they kept having these overshoots.
We can see it again.
And it is like the car's running on an egg-shaped tyre. So whether Mark's got a flat spot, whether these guys have been struggling with the braking. Here we go. Team radio. That's an old message. So as I said a moment ago, I think he owes us a stop now. So I think we will see him come one more time past and then in. Yeah, look at that vibration. It's just some egg-shaped tyres, isn't it, I think? And it's interesting, as he loads the car up to the left, that vibration seems to go away.
So it's one tyre rather than squeezes through past the Tracy Chrome Ferrari there in the Porsche curves.
Yeah, I think it's an inside edge of a tyre, actually, looking at it, because it went away as he loaded it to the left, and then it went away as he loaded it to the right. And yeah, as I said, I think one more lap now for that 20 car. He'll be in at the end of this. But yeah, I suspect it is a flat spot, because as he loads the car to the left, the vibration went away, and then as he loaded the car to the right, the vibration wasn't there as well. But in a straight line, that vibration very apparent. So a flat spot running on the inside edge of the tyre, I think. And you'll see it here. Loads the car up, vibration goes away. Loads it up again, no vibration. Now running in a straight line. But he's still loading the car as he comes down through this section. But when you see him come to the Mulsanne, you'll see it starts at bang, 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 bang. And it doesn't do that at the start of a stint on fresh tyres. The 97 class leader in for fuel. This is going to be fuel and tyres. Bruno Senna bolted into that car now.
Bruno having a reduced programme this year, isn't he? Stefan Mucker out, Bruno Senna in, but
he's going to do Formula E, isn't he? Which is why we're only going to see him at one more round, I believe, of the WEC. He's would like to do his home race in Sao Paulo.
And I'm sure the championship would like to see him doing that race in Sao Paulo as well on the Interlagos circuit.
He and Karun Chandok putting a deal together to run together again, as they did at the HRT Formula 1 team in Formula E. Wow, so loads of curve there from the 51 class, chasing now and not taking the lead back on the stop. So yeah, Stefan Mucker doing a fantastic job of actually making that now a full race lead, no longer swapping positions during the stop. And Bruno last night was putting in some fantastic times, so I think we're going to see Bruno now continue to drive away from Jimmy Bruni.
So there is the battle. There is Bruno Senna just out of the pits in the 97 Aston, and behind him Jimmy Bruni in the Ferrari. And here it is, number 51. So that's first and second. Now. Yeah,
completely reversed from as it was at the beginning of the last run. Showing us 7 seconds on the screen. I suspect it's just a little more than that, because Jimmy Bruni, the gap won't have been at pit out. We'll see what it updates to be. But it was 11 seconds at the start of that last stint between Stefan Mucker, who was in that Pro class Aston Martin, and the Ferrari. So yeah, now roles reversed, and I suspect the gap's similar with the Aston out front now. There it is. You can see the gap coming down that second section of the Mulsanne straight.
So Bruno Senna just in the car. How can he react with a heavier fuel load to the Ferrari behind him?
I suspect he'll get up to speed pretty quickly on his fresh tyres. It's not like this is a stint where he's on old tyres and a full tank, which is generally where you see the slightly slower lap times.
And there's a feeling, isn't there, for a driver when he gets in on new tyres and he finds all that grip and performance, it sort of motivates him as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He'll be he knows he's got the car under him to do the job. We'll just watch the ticker here with the gap as we see an LMP1 car coming past Bruno Senna, 7 seconds. So that gap coming down, Jimmy Bruni's closed that gap by a second in that last sector. So just taking a little time to get up to speed, but the 20 Porsche comes in, and we're going to see Mark Webber stay in that car by the looks of it. I'm surprised by that. I thought that that's what they should have been doing by the book, but I thought Mark would have been screaming to come out of that car and get a fresh set of tyres, and just goes to show that I think it's just they don't have the pace.
And he's going to have to live with that vibration.
Yeah, absolutely, but they're throwing away so much time now that I think they had to do something, but clearly the engineers on the pit wall knowing that they can't do it. So whether they've just turned the wick down on that car and thinking, yeah, okay, let's see what happens with Marc Genet and the #1 Audi, because there is still a long way to go. There's 6 hours and 15 minutes to go still, and that is more than a WEC standard race distance. So let's see how that one pans out.
Well, Audi's still showing the pace. Marcel Fessler, a 3:25 last time, very low 3:25 last time. So just a couple of seconds off the fastest lap that we've seen so far, which was right at the start of the race by Kazuki Nakajima on lap 4 without any traffic.
So, duel, as they call it. We will see Jimmy Bruni pull the time back, I think. These cars, again, they're strong in different sections of the lap. So you will see that slippery 458 close on the faster sections of the circuit. And they maintain the gap now. So, yeah, that last sector very much a match for one another.
7 seconds between them in GTE-Pro. GTE-Am is a little bit more clean cut now with David Hannemeyer Hansen in the lead in the Aston with 243 laps, whereas Klaus Bachler in the Porsche #88 has 2 laps less. So there's quite a gulf there.
Those Porsches just not seeming to show the pace, which is exactly the opposite of what we've seen this season so far. So I think there'll be a few words being had about balance of performance well, we've got a couple of months to argue about it, but yeah, just the Porsche won the first race at Silverstone at a canter, so strange to see, and maybe just the different strengths of the different cars at the different circuits.
I asked Olaf Mante if for example, a team might sandbag in the first 2 races. I didn't say any specific team, and he's quite a sort of ponderous gentleman, and he said, yes, it is possible, yes.
I wouldn't like to say. They're all my customers, so I've got to be a good boy and stay out of that war.
I didn't mention any names.
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think, you know, that 458 is a strong package, and we saw Bruno Senna just have a little lock-up into the first chicane on those new tyres. That's not the sort of thing he wants to be doing. The gap now down to 6.5 seconds, so he's feeling the pressure of that full fuel load, but that probably going to show, you know, Jimmy Brunny now with a lighter fuel load, not able to catch at a rapid pace Bruno Senna. So Bruno's only going to go quicker as this stint wears on. So I think this is probably pretty evenly matched at this stage, while the Aston has the heavier fuel load. They'll be using just over 5 kilos of fuel up every lap around this 13.5 kilometre circuit.
Well, just to go back to this Aston business, of course, the point that I made also was that, of course, this is a double points and very, very important race. So you might work up to this. And remember, in qualifying, we've seen Nicky Team set a faster time than any of the pro drivers as an Am car as well. And that is not going to help Aston's case from this race onwards to plead for any more breaks in balance of performance.
Absolutely, but the job's done. Taking a double points win is pretty impressive if they can do that. And yeah, last year here they were robbed, and you know, the sad events that went on here, they did feel robbed from what happened, and Fred Mako hitting the wall, and you know, whilst leading, handing that victory in effect to the Porsche. And then losing the championship, even after losing that double point scoring round here at the last round in Sao Paulo. They lost it in Sao Paulo, but with similar fault on both cars, suspension failure. I just, you know, they must feel that they deserve this. A lot of road being used by Jimmy Brunny on the way out of that karting section in the 51 Ferrari 458 as he comes into the forward chicane. Again, he's monstering those curbs, Bob. Absolutely, wow. I mean, if that car's strong enough to take that for 24 hours, great, because I wouldn't be chasing quite that hard, I don't think, right now. There's still quite a long way to go, and the gap down to 3 seconds now, so he's taken 3 seconds out in that lap.
Although there's a few cars between the two of them as well, although they're quicker cars, so
yes,
should get past.
Although the 8-star car isn't, so Bruno has had to dispatch that car, and I suspect probably had that car through the Porsche curves.
And in overall order, in the overall classification, Senna in 16th place in the Aston, Bruni in 17th. So they're pretty well placed. They've done an excellent job. They're in amongst the LMP2 cars, the slower LMP2 or the delayed LMP2 cars as well.
Yeah, Bruni catching the 8-star car in a better place on the circuit, so I suspect he'll have a stab at the first chicane. He's flashing away, and I don't think the 8-star car sharing a garage with the 51 is likely to do much about holding it up.
I say slower cars. The Aston is saying, will you please get out of the way, you little LMP2 cars? I'm having a battle here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's it. The pro drivers in these... I say he'll let him through. He definitely doesn't let him through. Now, those two cars actually share a pair of garages in the AF Corsa garage. So he's indicating now. He's had the. Could you please get out the way? Because yeah, they actually share a garage. Those two cars up in the pit complex. So I suspected the engineers sitting next to each other able to say, "Go on, let him through. He's in the battle. Get on with it." But not the case.
39 cars still in the running of this 82nd Le Mans 24 Heures.
The 14 car now heading down pit road. That's the Porsche LMP1 car, the car that lost quite a lot of time early on in the race. Romain Dumas stays in, I think.
And we have just over 6 hours of racing still to go. So once again, a lap in the 3-minute 25s from Marcel Fessler is about to complete another one. We'll keep an eye open on that pace. Genet having relaxed to a 3 minutes 31 at the moment. Mark Webber 3 minutes 34. Lapierre in the Toyota 3 minutes 28. And Romain Dumas on his way out of the pits, so we don't have a competitive lap time from him. Waiting for Marcel Fessler now. Lapierre, 3 minutes 26s. That's a quicker one from him. And it's a beautiful morning here in Le Mans. 3 minutes 26 from Marcel Fessler as well, who's fractionally slower than Lapierre, about 6/10 slower. So not a great deal of difference there, but Fessler to Webber, once again, about 8 seconds to the advantage of the Swiss driver over the Australian. But not on the same lap yet. Schulz-Hitzky still in the lead in LMP2, now ahead of Chatin in the Alpine, and then Baddy in the other Ligier. With fourth in class is the Zytek with Oliver Turvey on board. Then comes René Rast, a driver who has made the change from Porsches into LMP2 for the first time. And René Rast, an ace in Porsches, but trying his hand in the LMP2s for the first time. Riding on board here with Gianmaria Bruni and taking lots of those curbs, but careful not to go over the baguette as well, the blue bits, which are considerably more raised. Margin between Senna and Bruni, 2.1 seconds. So Bruni gaining on the Aston ahead, and here is the battle. There's another Ferrari between the two of them. So battle is not quite yet joined, but very nearly. It's a trio with the Aston trying to clear its way past some of these slower LMP2 cars and other GTs as well. So now he's got 2 cars between him and Gianmaria Bruni. And Bruni now looking to overtake a couple of other Porsche Ferraris. And a Porsche as well, sorry, one other Ferrari and one Porsche.
I think that's the 88 Porsche that he's passing there, which is second in the Am class, so in amongst battling cars all the time.
And another Ferrari getting a tow from Gianmaria Bruni, but not for long.
Just have a look at the LMP2 class, see what's going on there. Pierre Chatin now in the Alpine, chasing down Mark Schliski in the Ligier. Mark on his in-lap. Just trying to see what that gap is. That is now a full lap, 2 laps, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. Whereas Ludovic Baddy is just behind Paul-Loup Chatin, just 3 seconds behind.
That's been a really punishing few stints from that 35 car, and just seeing that driver lineup absolutely drive away from the others. And I think there'll be a few people in that pit lane saying, excuse me, who of those drivers is the silver? Because you've got the Nismo athletes of Jan Mardenborough and Mark Schliski in that car, along with young Alex Brundle, and that just goes to show what a fantastic job they're doing. You know, Mark, his first time here, and he has not done a great amount of racing in reality. Yeah, he did the Dubai 24-hour, and yeah, he's done that before now, but yeah, very, very fast young driver who's going to have another fantastic career ahead of him, as Jan Mardenborough is not quite matching Jan, as we see that car in the pit lane now. I think Mark's staying in. I have no reason to believe he will have been pulled out of that car. He certainly owes us another stint.
And there he is, rejoins.
This will be his last stint of the run.
Vladivostok, not exactly a centre of sports car racing. It may be a centre of gaming, however.
Absolutely, I think
nothing else to do there. And here is the GTE-Pro side by side, the two protagonists on the left, Bruno Senna on the right, Gianmaria Bruni, side by side. They're still side by side. No, they're not. Bruno Senna takes the advantage, or holds the advantage, just.
I think you're going to see Bruno's fuel load come down and him be able to drive away from the 51 car again. The 51 car probably about, I think, 2 laps away from a pit stop. As I say that, he'll probably duck into the pits, but I think he owes us 2 laps.
He nearly heard that, didn't he? He thought, oh, yeah, this will get him excited. We'll wind him up a bit.
Absolutely. So, but the Ferrari at its lightest and the Aston, that fuel load just coming down, as I say, sort of 5 kilos a lap of fuel used in these GTE cars. So it's not an inconsiderate number. You know, if they lose a passenger over a stint, it's quite a lot of fuel that these guys are getting through. And the Aston, not the most fuel-efficient beast. It actually carries more fuel than the 458. The 458 only carrying 90 litres of fuel. The Aston allowed to carry 100. So that's a greater delta across the stint. So we should see the Aston get much faster as this stint wears on. But
and actually 100 kilos, that's a fairly weighty passenger as well.
That's me. I'm not the smallest bloke in the world. And yeah, that's somebody who's drunk a lot of beer.
Well, here it is again. This is where we saw them side by side a moment ago, and it looks as though this time Gianmaria Bruni is closer earlier and may well take advantage. Gets in the tow in the slipstream, using the aeros, going past the Café des Onnidières and dodging around behind, but Bruno can't block him forever.
You have to say, what a fantastic job the ACO test drivers have done to equalise these cars.
Well, absolutely.
After 18 hours of racing, we're just hitting the 6-hour mark in 5 seconds time. To still be on the same lap, on the same second, battling hard, you know. All these critics of the balance of performance, I'm sorry, the ACO and the team at the FIA, what a fantastic job they've done as we see him cover again. Bruno can't defend forever. Come on, Bruno. He's going to now. Right, this is it, I think. Bruni's got to the inside and he's going to have the Mulsanne kink coming up. He's going to be able to stay to the inside of the Mulsanne kink. And then he hasn't got the benefit of the tow that he has had, and the Aston now just got the legs on the top end, hasn't it? Just pulling away, but through the Mulsanne kink, Bruno thinks better of it. Glad to see he did that and thought, no, let's let him go into the Mulsanne corner. But now the Aston particularly strong, I think, in this section up to Indianapolis and through Indianapolis as he goes through the right-hander and the left-hander. I think that suits the Aston. So let's see if Bruno decides that he wants to have another pop at the Ferrari, if he can get close enough through the Indianapolis and Arnage section.
It does vary the competition, the pace between the two cars in various different areas.
So here we see him now coming down into Indianapolis through that left-hander. You're going to see the Aston pull up onto the back now of that Ferrari 458 as we switch to a replay of the pass. The pass was pretty much done as he came out of that second chicane. He got himself over to the right-hand side and didn't give Bruno the chance to cover that off. If Bruno could have got to the right-hand side there, we wouldn't have seen that pass. But yeah, there it is. It was actually done on the way in. Jimmy Bruni set that pass up on the way in by making him cover the inside, which meant that he then turned very early to the apex of the right, and yeah, that was it done. So a nice slow-mo there of the 51 car bouncing across the curbs here at the Dunlop chicane. And back to the action. So what are we going to see? We're just running through at the 6-hour mark the leaders. So we see the number 1 Audi leading, still with Marc Genet at the wheel. And that's got a lap's lead now, and it is a full lap over Mark Webber. Mark really struggling with the pace still, 3:31, so last time round 6 seconds slower than Marc Genet. And then Marcel Fassler, third overall in the number 2 Audi, a couple of laps back. And in the other classes, Jan Mardenborough is leading that P2 class. Jan now has a lap over Ludovic Badet in the other Ligier. And Pierre Chatin in the Alpine. The Pro class, I think we can all see what the gap is there. Jean-Marie Bruni and Bruno Senna really hammering it out, but Marco Holzer, their third in the factory Porsche. Marco 2 laps down on that lead battle. And in the Am class, David Hannemar Hansen over Klaus Bachler. In the Am class, the 1 and 2 there. So Aston's lead GTE, or led GTE in both classes. Now we have the 458. And car 36 slow after Marshall's point 76.
That's Paul-Loup Chatin.
Oh,
third in class.
Just as I mention his name, commentator's curse. So Chatin, Marshall's point 76. That's Mulsanne. So there's a long way to get back from there.
Into the pits comes Marcel Fassler. Now, this could be a driver change this time.
Yep, I think we are expecting that. Quadruple. Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right. As the car glides down the pit lane, almost silent as they run down. The Audis making a whistle as they come in and stop. No, this is going to be one more.
Yeah, one more for him.
For Fassler.
He's doing
quadruple.
He's doing a great job in there, isn't he? Anyway,
he is, and I think you've got to leave Fassler in because he knows the car, he knows the circuit, he knows where it's at, and he's chasing. Yeah, the gap's 2 laps, but he needs to close that in. And you know, he was in the car when they did all those major changes, the work that had to go on to get that car back out and running properly. So we're still seeing 36 slow after Marshall's point 115 now. So he's not that slow because he's completed that section of the circuit pretty quickly. So he's now in the Porsche curves and going to be coming back past us. We'll keep a good eye out because we haven't seen him on the screen to see what's wrong with that. As the 35 LMP2 leading Ligier comes past us up the pit straight.
Le Mans is now waking up. It's 9:05 in the morning here under blue skies, mainly blue skies. There's the odd little bit of fluffy stuff floating around up there, but otherwise it's a beautiful morning. And the spectators beginning to fill in. Extraordinary number of people here last night. Very, very full. Here's 36 coming in, the Alpine. And, well, it's not that slow. You're absolutely right. It's going pretty well. But it'll be interesting to hear what the problem is, or see what the problem is.
No puncture
third in
there.
class.
No puncture. Let's see what we can get from some of the social media. See if there's the team, these guys, the signature team, actually, that run that car.
With Paul-Loup Chatin, Nelson Panciatici and Oliver Webb.
They're going to turn that car around and put it in the garage. So I suspect something powertrain related, and no news there, but we now have a Ligier 1-2 in the LMP2 class. Ludovic Badet now coming through and past. What a debut for that car. What a debut. Left front wheel, look, that's an upright failure by the looks of it. They're having a wiggle. No, it's a track rod. He's hit something.
Yeah, it's not pointing the right direction at all, is it?
He's hit something with that car.
A bit too much toe in on one side.
Or is it a broken rod end? We do see this quite often if they've walloped a curb. The actual rose joint in the end of the steering arm fails. No, that's not the problem. That's still well and truly attached. So is it a failure within the steering rack? Or is it the upright itself? You see the mechanic going to work there, undoing the rose joint onto the upright. They're having a good look at the steering rack itself. I think they suspect that they've actually broken something within the rack, and that's not a quick thing to change. That'll be 4 or 5 laps to change a steering rack. If it is the rack, a track rod is a lot quicker to change. They'll have them ready in the garage to just swap them over. Length's already set, so they won't have to check the toe or toe on the car. The only thing that's affected by changing that track rod.
Bruni may have taken the lead in the class, but he hasn't actually pulled away too much from Bruno Senna, has he? The gap was still less than a second last time around. So quite interesting, and there we see the pair of them still together, the Ferrari and the Aston, battle for first position in GTE-Pro.
Just waiting to see if there's anything about what's going on there in terms of the signature car. It definitely looked rack-related to me, because there was rose joint was still firmly connected to the upright. Upright looked in one piece, and the bodywork certainly didn't look like he'd hit anything. But sometimes wheel-to-wheel contact can do some serious damage, as we see Bruno Senna now lining Jimmy Bruni up. As I said, the Aston now getting lighter and lighter. I think this is Jimmy Bruni's in-lap.
And this is after 18 hours of racing. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? They're a second apart.
Says, and Bruni setting his fastest lap of the race so far in the last lap, but not as quick as Senna. You know, Senna on a 35.4, while Bruni does a 35 dead. Sorry, 55 dead and a 54.7. He's going to do it, isn't he? He's going to have a really good go down into Indianapolis. This is where I think the Aston is stronger, where it gets the punch out of these two corners. So he gets the punch out of Indianapolis and really closes in the braking zone. That's normal, the closing in the braking zone. But on the power out of here on traction, he seems to have it. He seems to be able to really close that. You see that's Jimmy Bruni doesn't get away there in the 458. That is where the Aston is the stronger car. Definitely. It's surprising with a front-engine car to say that it's getting him on the traction out of these slower corners, but it definitely is. Into the Porsche curves, fairly even.
Still the order with Marc Genet out in front in the Audi, ahead of Mark Webber in the Porsche number 20. Then Marcel Fessler in Audi number 2, Nicolas Lapierre in Toyota number 8, and Romain Dumas in Porsche number 14. Those are the first 5 places.
He looked like he was going to have a pop. I'm expecting to see no. Bruni does another lap. Okay, I must have my maths wrong somewhere. They're going to battle this out, duke it out for one more.
Half a second apart between the two of them, Ferrari to Aston.
Again, this is another place for traction event where you're going to see the Aston stay with that 458 on the run down the hill. And then through this very quick Forest S's section into Rouge and onto the Mulsanne. Jimmy Bruni's got a bit of a larger gap now than he had last lap. So I don't think we're going to see Bruno Senna making that same challenge into the Mulsanne kink and through the Mulsanne corner. And then hopefully he will pull it back, but
the Alpines, incidentally, still in the pits. Oliver Turvey's just made a pit stop in the Zytek, which is the next car behind, ready to move up into 3rd place, and that's Oliver Turvey, of course, came here again, not expecting to drive that car.
There it is on traction, that car. Sorry, the Aston just on traction out of that second chicane, much quicker than the Ferrari.
And driving the Jota once Marc Genet had moved up into Audi, Oliver Turvey moved into the Jota Zytek with Simon Dolan and Harry Tinknell. And now there they are, soon, one hopes, to inherit 3rd place in class in LMP2. They're still a couple of laps behind the class leader. Jan Mardenborough now in that class. 2 minutes and 38 seconds ahead of the other Ligier, number 46 of Ludovic Badi, Tristan Gomendi and Pierre Thierrier, who have been front runners all the way through the week in this car. And here comes Bruno Senna, but Gianmaria Bruni blocks off the track. He can't do that too many times, but there's just a couple of lengths between the two of them as they head out of Mulsanne and head down towards Indianapolis. And what a great battle this is between these two GT cars. This is what GT racing should be all about. Earlier on, we had the Chevrolet Corvette in there as well, and the only car that was really missing was Porsche, would you believe? And they had done so well over the years here, but haven't been in the mix. But Marco Holzer at the moment in third place, but he's a couple of laps, I think, just one lap further down in the Porsche, so it could be on the podium at the current rate. And here is the Alpine still being worked on.
But they're taking this as an opportunity to do brake pads as well, which is what you're seeing going on the right front corner. So this isn't a lost opportunity. I wonder if... Oh, no, they're not. They're using the pad pullers. Ugh. I didn't like what I was seeing there. It didn't look very pretty, but OK, they know what they're doing. Still don't know what it is on the front end of that car that's failed. They're not dropping the front crash structure off, so it doesn't look like it's the rack. They would have to do that to get to the steering rack.
It looked like a bit like a sort of massive tooth extraction tool.
That's what you normally use to push the brake pads back, but it wasn't being used on the brake caliper. Unless they've had to pop the calipers off for whatever reason. But I wouldn't have expected that, and be interesting. Just interesting to see the fact that they are changing pads, because it's not something I expected to see, to be honest.
Confirmation from Audi that they did in fact change the turbo on the number 2 Audi, which is what we suspected all along.
So that's a variable geometry turbo, a VNT. Veins within that turbo that alter how the boost is delivered. And is it an upright going on the Alpine? That car based around an Orica. And there's Timo Bernard waiting to jump on board when Mark Webber decides he's had enough at the next stop. I'm still surprised that they didn't pull Mark out at that point and put Timo in. The Thierrier by TDS car, LMP2 coming in as we switch back on screens to this battle again. I think every time they get to the Mulsanne, we're going to switch back to this. They're just duking it out, aren't they?
Just to say, yeah, the Jota Zytek has moved ahead of the Alpine now, the stricken Alpine that's in the pits of Paul Louchatin. And now the Oliver Turvey Jota Zytek is up into third place in LMP2, 9th overall.
Yeah, fantastic for those guys. We saw them lead early on. They led the first lap, in fact, and they led the whole of that first stint, and then dropped back a little as the tyres wore through the second stint, and never really came back from that. I suspect they had another little issue that we missed. They've been coming back and back, and that's what we expect from those guys on 27 stops and the slightly more fuel-efficient Zytek. So, yeah, they've obviously had a few troubles along the way, but doing a fantastic job of coming back, and now in the podium spot, as we see Bruno looking again. He just hasn't got the grunt to do it. And Jimmy Bruni, now that he's through, look at the curb they're using on the way out. This isn't a sprint race, boys. See the 53 rotating down at Arnage, heading back off, away from Arnage into the Porsche curves. But these two stuck together, and the Aston definitely has it on traction out of the medium speed corners, and not necessarily just the slow speed as much, but he's coming through the Porsche curves now. No, Indianapolis. And again, this is where he's going to catch this faster corner with the traction event on the way out. The Alpine ready to go with an upright change by the looks of that. Let's have a look and see if we can confirm that it did in fact have an upright.
Let me just tell you in the meantime that all of the first 5 cars have lapped under 3 minutes 30. So Webber, for example, finally getting, say, 3 minutes 28 for him. Now it's 3 minutes 30. Genet and Fassler in the Audis, both in the 3 minute 26s. Lapierre in the Toyota, 3 minutes 27s. And Dumas, 3 minutes 30 as well. So Webber getting a little bit more competitive, but still not on the pace of the Audis ahead and behind him.
Interesting to see there that the car coming back on, it seems, as these tyres wear. So they might have gone through some kind of grading phase, but certainly he's able to do more consistent times now, around the 3:30s, but it's still 4 seconds away from either of the Audis, and the Audi just able to punch those laps in, lap after lap after lap, and traditionally they set the car up for this next 6 hours of the race, so I only expect to see them continue in the same vein. The Porsche pit stop ever so slightly slower than the Audi, which is interesting because what's been reported certainly all week, and I've actually measured with my own stopwatch, but it's very difficult not knowing how much fuel was originally in the tank when they go to fill it. 3 seconds slower than the number 20 car. Now, that can be that actually the Porsche are able to use more of their allotment of fuel and less of a decimal of a lap left, meaning that they have to spend a little bit more time connected to the fuel rig, getting that fuel in. But we'll see how that one shakes out, because all that first 4, just those first 4 drivers all mid large stints. So I think we'll see Fassler and Webber swap at the next stop, and Genet, I think, still owes us one more. .33 coming into the pits. That the HPD powered car. Hoping Tung coming in, and I think he'll be handing that car over. He's been in there for a while.
The Alpine of Paul-Louis Chatin actually lost 2 places, not only to the Oliver Turvey-driven Zytek, but also the René Rast-driven Orica, which moves up into 4th in class, and now the Alpine is 5th in class. So really unfortunate there, losing 2 places and actually losing a podium position. And there is the Toyota number 8 slotting between the 2 protagonists in GTE-Pro.
It's going to take something like that for Senna to get back past. He's going to have to make it the best of an opportunity in traffic when there may be an LMP2 car with slightly less speed differential comes past and gets up the inside of Bruni, and then he's going to be able to do it. I'm still amazed that Bruni's out there. He definitely, if it's not this lap, then that Ferrari's got, yeah, a supersized fuel tank in for this stint.
One not supplied by yourself, then?
Unfortunately it is, but I'm scratching my head a bit because I know it's good, but it can't magic fuel. Interesting to see. Yeah, the guys at Michelotto spending a lot of time developing the fuel system on that car this winter, recognising that that's an area where their car was weak. And I spent quite a lot of time down at Michelotto in Italy working through the design of that fuel system with them, and they're very complimentary about what's gone on there. It works extremely well, and yeah, just refining those cars as the years go on. So, just looking at Heidfeld now in a hurry in the LMP1 Rebellion. No reason to be in a hurry. But actually, interestingly, Nick Heidfeld is quicker than Mark Webber, or not on that last, but certainly on Webber's previous, a 29.5. So Heidfeld in the Rebellion managing to match that pace. It's not what we expected to see.
Number 1 there, Marc Genet coming in this time around, I think. As we heard a moment ago. And here he is on the way to the Porsche curves.
Mark will be doing one more stint now. As we heard 2 stints ago, he was expected to do a double on these tyres that were giving him a bit of understeer. Still another double, so he'll be staying in that car.
And it's about to be 24 pit stops for Marc Genet to the 21 of Mark Webber, but it hasn't helped Mark Webber.
No, absolutely. Mark just going that little bit slower, and great to see the Porsche out there running reliably, but just not got that ultimate pace that we expected to see, I think, from that Porsche. And I think we would have seen that on outright pace in qualifying. That Porsche was the fastest car had it not been for that yellow slow zone that we had. But we shall see. I don't know whether he's going to manage to pick up the pace again and get it done on new boots. But let's see, because we know that Mark's coming out at the end of this stint. And Timo Bernard will be getting in that car to see what he can do. So the number 1 car now coming into Indianapolis. That fast, no, that's the Porsche curve, sorry. In through the karting section now, once he's through the double left, through the right-hander. So Kyle repeating what we just said, that this is going to be in for one more.
And here he comes into the pits. Marc Genet in the lead. Fuel only for the number 1 Audi. A long, long drive down this pit lane. Relatively quiet at the moment. It'll get busier and busier. 24 also comes in. That's René Rast, now 4th in class. And still the back. Oh, it's Bruno Senna's back ahead, is it?
Yep, absolutely. Not sure where that switch happened. We only saw it once it had happened.
Here it is. Bruno pulls alongside.
Just drives around in this time. Jimmy Brunny giving up and saying, no, on you go. You can lead for a while. I want to save a little bit more fuel. Which, of course, he will do, towing behind the Aston. And the Aston now leads him through Indianapolis. Jimmy must be coming in on this lap. I'm sorry, that either I've massively got my maths wrong, but it just seems to have been a really, really long stint from him. As they're catching, is that the 92 to put another lap on the 92 Porsche? I think it probably is.
Currently 3rd in class and being driven by Richard Lietz, the Austrian driver, the number 92 Porsche. And he's only 1 minute and 11 seconds ahead of Antonio Garcia in the Chevrolet. So we could be having a battle for 1st and 2nd in class in GT-Pro, and also 3rd and 4th.
Using all the road and some coming through the left-hander at karting. And Jimmy Brunny just seemed slow quite a lot, you know. He's going to give us another one. When did he last?
Fabien Barthez. A goalie has never run so far, I should think. Who's minding the net? So riding on board here with the number 1 car after that pit stop. And still with a lap advantage over Mark Webber in 2nd place. Audi again in 3rd, Toyota 4th, Porsche in 5th. Then Jan Mardenborough and Pierre Thirier in the 2 Ligiers in LMP2. Nick Heidfeld in the Rebellion in 8th place. And then Oliver Turvey in 9th. And Paul Louchatin now back out on the circuit and now ahead of René Rast, who has just had a pit stop in the number 24 Orica.
So Bruno Senna setting the fastest time that time round. 3:53.9, the fastest lap for that class so far. And is that him we see? It's not, that was the Am car we were seeing crossing the line, I think. So back with the LMP2 class then. That's our class leading Ligier Nissan. Currently driven by Jan Mardenborough, back out in that car. Jan just seems to have been in that car forever. Stunning stint from Jan last night as it went dark and ran through into the midnight hours. He was absolutely stunning and took the lead, which hasn't given up since. That's a new car for this year. This is its race debut, and debuting with a pole and now leading the majority of the way here. He's got a lap gap back to the sister Ligier, driven by Pierre Thierry at the moment. Thierry Batidi's car. And then in that class, seeing Ollie Turvey now 2 laps back up onto the podium in the Jota Sports Zytek, run by Sam Hignett and his team. Simon Dolan doing a stunning job in that car. That car really the first of the cars that you would really say there's a gentleman driver in. Well, Pierre Thierry is, I guess, class the same. But Simon, a stunning job there to get that car through. And Ollie Turvey, who wasn't expecting to be racing here this week, originally squatted down to be in the Millennium squad, Simon Dowson and Alan Docking's ADR Delta squad, who unfortunately aren't here as their Millennium backing didn't come through, so having to withdraw from the race, leaving Ollie without a drive. But due to that incident of Loic Duval having an accident on Wednesday night, Marc Genet, who was slated to drive the Jota Zytek, Ollie Turvey getting the phone call on Wednesday evening to say, after practice and the first qualifying session had happened, say, can you come down and get in this car, please? And doing a stunning job now. So as we hear Mark Webber coming in this lap, as we suspected, driver change and a fresh set of heels to go on that car. He'll be handing that car over to Timo Bernhard. Timo been stood ready for a little while now to take that car over. So let's see how that one pans out. I think it'll be good to see him in that car. I suspect he's going to, with fresh tyres, be able to better the times that Mark Webber's been doing over the last few, as Mark catches traffic coming through the Tyson Ferrari 458 as he comes through karting, and he'll now duck off to the right-hand side of the circuit and come in past us at the Ford chicane to the into the pit lane. Yeah, Timo ready to get in that car. And a fresh set of Michelin rubber to go on it.
And his own seat insert, replacing the somewhat lankier Mark Webber.
68 litres of Shell E20 fuel to go into that car, which will happen first as they see the car stop. Timo come round, they can conduct the driver change and clean the windscreen while that fuel's going in. Timo puts his own seat insert in, and he's got a man coming through from the other side. One of the challenges of these closed cockpit cars, getting in and getting yourself done up. Interesting that they don't have to take the steering wheel off to be able to do that. I think that's something that would be quite a risk in terms of time lost. And they can't put the wheels on or put the car in the air until, so you see the car go up, the refueling is finished.
It's interesting that all that has changed slightly over the years, in that you can still do quite a lot while the refueling is going on, except for the tyres.